Hello, this is a tutorial to set up a simple room for Tango. A room is an improvising environment, and this room I'm going to set up now will work with 3 tracks. 2 MIDI tracks and 1 audio track that uses the signal that comes in from my trombone. The MIDI tracks are going to play some chords and a bass line with it. The room should also be able to harmonize the music Tango plays a little bit to make it sound more consonant, and it will also be able to detect a tempo. If I play a certain tempo, Tango is able to turn on a metronome and adjust to that tempo. I won't go through every detail in this tutorial because that would take too much time. If you want to know more, just read the manual. The first 2 modules I need for this room are an audio MIDI in and an audio MIDI out module. These 2 modules are connected to the hardware of my computer, and everything Tango does from listening to playing happens between these 2. I adjust the out module to the MIDI hardware I'm using. The second module I will need is a listener. Somebody has to listen to me when I play with the software. Here's the listener, and we put it right next to the MIDI in module. You might find the user interface a bit slow. That has to do with the screen recording software. Usually it's not like that. For the listener, I need only 2 adjustments in the editor, in the listener's editor. One is later on it should be able to turn on a tempo when it hears it from my playing. So it should keep track of its own tempo confidence, which I'm doing here. And also I want to keep it from being able to turn a tempo off. So this needs a no up here. So it can turn the tempo on, but not off after that. That's all for the listener. The next module I'm going to call is an audio to MIDI module. There it is, which I'm going to explain later on when we get to the using of harmony. Now we hook these up. The audio in, coming from the hardware, goes to the listener and also to the audio to MIDI. These are blue lines because we are talking about an audio signal. The next module we need is a player, because obviously I don't want the program only to listen, I also want it to play some music. We go into the player's editor and have 1 track only here, so we add 2 more because, as I said in the beginning, we will need 3 tracks in this room. There we go. The first track will produce the basis for some chords that Tango is going to play. So I'm going to name this chord note A. And now I have to make a couple of adjustments. These tracks use the phrases that I've played before, and here I can decide in this rests area, I can decide the length of the rests that the software is going to use. I'm okay with rests of a minimum of 1 second, 1000 milliseconds, but I'd like the maximum to be a bit more, like 5 seconds. So I adjust that to 5000 approximately. Okay, this track should play a bit faster than I've played the phrases myself. So I'll set it to 130%. The pitch register, I'm going to set this to 65. These are MIDI note numbers. 65 is the number of the pitch of the F above middle C. So every note this track plays is going to be changed by, in terms of octaves, so that the average pitch is as close to 65 to the F above middle C as possible. We want this track to be a bit louder than I played, so I set this to 106%, the volume, and we want this track to play really legato. Whatever I do in my input, it should be really legato, so I set this to 200, which is the maximum legato I can have. This is supposed to be a MIDI track, so we don't need the audio, and I want an individual out for this. All the other default values of my player tracks can stay. For instance, here I have 3 for the phrases used, which means this track is going to use the 3 last phrases that I've played and no older ones. So now we go to the second track, which is going to be the audio track. Here I want the possibility to have shorter rests, say something like that. Yeah, very short, like 100 milliseconds, a tenth of a second. And the fact that there's a minimum and a maximum value means that the program chooses randomly between rest lengths of 106 and 3000 milliseconds. Again, lots of legato here, and we want to make this an audio track, so we don't need MIDI, and we want this track to also use older material which came from me, so we instructed to use the last 8 phrases instead of only the last 3 that I've used before. This should be it for track 2, for the audio track. So the last one is going to be the bass track, which is MIDI again. I also call it bass. I want this one to play a bit slower. Let's say 76% of the speed I've been playing, and it should be lower in pitch register. I set this to 48, so the average pitch of the notes that come from this, of the music that comes from this track, is going to be 48. That is an octave, 12 semitones below middle C, which would be 60. I want this to be a bit louder, say 115%, and I want legato as much as possible. Again, this one should only play younger phrases, so it will use only the last two phrases that I've been playing. And I do that because I don't want so many surprises from this track. Because I know the last two phrases that I've been playing on my horn, and it won't use anything older than that. And I want this track to be MIDI exclusively, and I want an individual out for that. So this is it for the player editor. And here below the player you see the two tracks that I've been assigning individual outputs. The listener and the player have to be connected, and now the player can use the listener's memory to play its phrases, because the listener memorizes everything I did and analyzes it too. Okay, next one is going to be a metronome. Later on we will work in this room also with some tempo that the listener will probably hear in my playing, and turn on the metronome from there. But I will hook up the metronome later on. Now I can do that right away. Listener to the control of the metronome. Next module we need is harmony. Because I don't want to stretch your ears too much, I will make the output of what Tango plays a bit more harmonic, more consonant, less dissonant. And therefore I use the module harmony, which in this case does two things. It keeps track of what I'm playing, of the pitches that I'm actually playing, and it looks for consonant intervals to these pitches, and it will alter Tango's output in a way that all these pitches, all these notes that are being played from Tango are in consonant intervals to what I'm playing with a live trombone. That means I will have to use two tracks here. One should be in floating harmony mode, which means consonant intervals only at the output. Consonant are of course fourths, fifths, thirds, sixths, octaves, and not like major and minor seconds, or sevenths or ninths and things like that. Tritones are being accepted, say 50%. Yes, 50% no. And the second track I will set to the cantus firmus mode, which means cantus firmus in this case is my own playing. This won't be altered pitch-wise, but it will be taken into account when Tango decides on the other pitches of his own playing. So we leave the editor of harmony, and we have to wire up harmony now. So all the music that Tango plays goes into harmony signal track 1. That is the chord notes, that is the bass, and that is the audio. Note that audio and MIDI signals are being harmonized by the same module, by the same track, with the same algorithms. Also, I'll have to set up, connect the audio to MIDI to the second track of harmony. So here my signal comes in audio-wise, and here it's being transformed into MIDI signals, and these MIDI notes go out here and tell harmony what I'm playing in this moment. Set the metronome a bit lower. Okay. Now we are almost done. We need 3 more modules, which are actually modifiers. The third one we leave for later, and number 2 and number 1 we're going to put here. So this track here creates the basis for chord notes, which isn't chords yet, of course, because it's only one note. So we have to add these 2 notes. We have to add notes to that. This is being done by chord note B, and chord note C. We get notes from the player here. The chord note B module gets notes from the player and has to alter them pitch-wise. I don't want the same transposition with every note. I want to give it a bit of leeway, so it's going to be transposed randomly between a minor third, 3 semitones down, and a minor 5th down. And also I want the chord notes to be a bit softer, volume or velocity wise, so I divide the velocity by 2. That's that. Now a note comes out here and is being transposed down by a minor third to a 5th by this module, and it will be further transposed by this module by something between a minor and major third. So -3 to -4 semitones, also randomly. Now this transposition of chord note C is being added to chord note 2. We will also want to hear chord note 2, chord note B, so we hook it up to signal track 1 of harmony, and we take out chord note C and hook it up to the same harmony track. So now the chords, the basis chord note, the top chord note is being played by this track. Another one is added here by chord note B, which goes down to harmony, and another one is added by chord note C, which goes also into harmony, so it will be harmonized there. Note that I divided the volume, the velocity, by 2 in this module, chord note B, and so this lower velocity already arrives here in chord note C, so I don't have to do that again because they are hooked up in a row, chord note B and chord note C. So the last module we will need for this is a module that is responsible for timing. I said before that the listener will be able to set up a to detect a tempo in my playing and to turn a metronome on when it does that. The metronome in turn will control this modifier called time. It will tell the modifier where are the next eighth notes. Let's put it at that, time-wise. So I have to enable this modifier to change the timing of all the notes that are played by Tango, so that they are quantized to a certain tempo. Therefore, I set the soft quantize to eighths, and in order to have a very strict quantization to these eighth notes, I will have to set this parameter to 127, which is the maximum. So now, of course, the signal doesn't go through this time modifier. We do that now. Here you realize that into harmony goes one audio and several MIDI wires. All these signals are being transported by one wire going into time, and here 2 wires transporting the MIDI and the audio to the output of your hardware. And as I look at it, this should be it for the tutorial room. Thanks very much for watching this.